We had just moved into a new house on the border of Victoria, Australia. My dad always wanted to live on a farm, so we bought a small, run-down house with a big piece of land. When my family and I first went to check out the house, I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. I didn't say anything about it and just kept my feelings to myself. Finally, the day came and we moved in. My bedroom was on the top floor and it had a tiny window. After unpacking all day, I was so tired that I fell asleep on my mattress. During the night, I was jolted awake by the slamming of doors, footsteps echoing in the hallway, and a sudden chill in the air. Was it a ghost? Dad always said there were no such things as monsters or ghosts. Maybe he was wrong. After that night, nothing spooky happened for a week. On Saturday night, Mum and Dad went out for dinner by themselves, so I was left alone in the house. I would have called a friend, but I had just moved, so I didn't know anyone yet. So I decided to watch some TV. While watching, I heard a strange noise coming from the driveway. Our driveway is really long, so I grabbed a flashlight and went to check it out. The sound was almost like a girl crying or being hurt, but I wasn't sure. I walked down the driveway to see what was going on. Suddenly, I felt a presence beside me. I looked down, but no one was there. Even though it scared me, I tried not to let it bother me too much. To this day, there are still footsteps echoing in the hallway. Doors creak open by themselves. And sometimes, I feel an unexplained cold spot in certain rooms.
Over the last few months, strange things have been happening here. The first sign of something out of the ordinary was when I woke up one morning to find my bedroom door locked from the outside, with the inside being unlocked. When I go to bed, it's the other way around, as logically, I can't lock the door on the outside while I'm standing inside. I got home from work one night the next week to discover this time that the door was locked inside and unlocked outside, completely opposite of how I'd left it. And now this. As I type this, my dog is going berserk, barking, scratching and sniffing at my bedroom door, where 2 hours ago, an unseen something slammed the door hard against my hand as I reached in to turn the light off. I've only been living in this house for a bit under 2 years, and my current room is just over 2 months. My sister lived in there the whole time before I moved my stuff in, and she says she never experienced anything unusual. Am I being targeted?
My mates and I had always been curious about the old abandoned mine at the edge of our town, hidden deep within the bushland of Western Australia. Legend said it was haunted by the ghosts of miners who met unfortunate ends. Despite the warnings from our parents, we decided to sneak in and explore it one night. The air was thick with the scent of moist earth and decaying leaves as we trudged through the bush. With only our flashlights to guide us, we reached the entrance of the mine. It was a gaping, dark hole that seemed to swallow the light. Despite a feeling of apprehension, we stepped inside. The inside of the mine was eerily silent, except for the sound of dripping water echoing off the walls. As we delved deeper, the air grew colder, and there was a palpable sense of dread. Just as we were about to turn back, we noticed faint, ghostly lights moving in the distance. They floated around, then disappeared into the darkness. Undeterred, we decided to follow them. The deeper we went, the stranger things became. We heard whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves, telling tales of the miners' tragic past. Broken tools and old mining carts littered the pathways, like artifacts from another time. At one point, my flashlight suddenly flickered and went out. In the pitch black, I felt something brush past me. My friend screamed as his flashlight revealed a fleeting shadow with hollow eyes, staring back at us. It vanished just as quickly as it appeared. Panicking, we tried to retrace our steps, but the mine seemed to change its layout. Tunnels that led us in were replaced by new, unfamiliar passages. Fear tightened its grip on us, and we ran in an attempt to escape. Eventually we stumbled upon a makeshift altar with old helmets and other mining gear arranged on it. The atmosphere was suffocating with the sense of despair and longing. Just as we thought we were lost forever, a faint light appeared, guiding us back to the entrance. We didn't question our luck. We just bolted out of the mine and didn't stop running until we reached the safety of our homes. That night, as I lay in bed, I could still hear the faint whispers and see the ghostly lights whenever I closed my eyes. It's been 20 years now, and none of us have ever spoken of that night again. But we all knew one thing was for sure. The ghosts of the abandoned mine were real, and they didn't like to be disturbed.
This story is very recent, and I'm curious as to why it happened. I was trying to get to sleep one night, but I wasn't very tired. I was laying in my room, which has another spare room next to it. The door of the spare room was open, and I was staring at my large bear collection, trying to sleep. All of a sudden, my bears started talking to me, which of course is very odd. I thought I was going crazy. It took me a moment to really listen to what they were saying. They were urgently telling me, "Don't let Elka get you." I got very scared and wondered if I was imagining it, wondering how I was imagining it. I didn't know anyone called Elka, and I still don't. I was about to yell for my mum when the voices stopped, and a tall, dark shadow came out of the spare bedroom, wandering into my room. I completely froze. I have a very, very great fear of ghosts, having seen them on multiple occasions. But this one was clearly not nice like the ones I'd seen before. I could feel it. It suddenly got very cold, and I wanted to pull up my doona, but I was too scared to move. The shadow that was standing in my doorway suddenly began lumbering towards me. It came closer and sat on the end of my bed, and I felt the bed move, like someone really was sitting on it. It sat there for about a minute, lurching over the bed, and then left. Every night from then on, I have kept that spare room door shut. Does anyone know why this would have happened? It was very strange, very different to the spirits I've normally seen.
My family and I were on a road trip through the Nullarbor Plain, a vast arid expanse stretching across Western and South Australia. One evening we decided to set up camp near a desolate area known to locals as the Eucla telegraph station ruins. The site intrigued us, and we figured it would be an interesting spot to camp for the night. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the sandy terrain, we pitched our tents and started a campfire. The stillness of the Nullarbor was both peaceful and eerie. My little sister asked Dad to tell us a ghost story, and he obliged with an old tale about the spirits of explorers who once traveled these remote lands. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I found myself unable to sleep. I stepped out of my tent to get some fresh air and was greeted by an unsettling sight. In the distance, a figure stood, barely visible in the moonlight. It was tall and seemed to be draped in ragged clothing, staring directly at our camp. My heart raced as I considered waking my parents, but something in me felt compelled to approach the figure. As I drew nearer, the figure turned and started to walk away, almost gliding over the sand. Curious and unnerved, I followed, keeping a safe distance. The figure led me to the ruins of the old Eucla telegraph station, now partially buried in sand. Suddenly, the air around me grew cold, and I felt a chill run down my spine. The figure stopped in front of one of the crumbling walls, turned to face me, and then vanished into thin air. Just as I was about to turn back, I heard a whispering sound, like a breeze blowing through the ruins. But there was no wind. The whispers grew louder, turning into unintelligible, frenetic murmurs that surrounded me. Shadows danced on the walls, and I felt an icy hand brush against my cheek. Panic set in, and I sprinted back to the camp as fast as I could. When I reached the tents, I was out of breath, heart pounding, and covered in cold sweat. I didn't wake anyone. I just crawled into my sleeping bag, trying to convince myself that it was all just a bad dream. The next morning I checked the area around the ruins, but there were no signs of the figure or anything unusual. I never spoke of that night again, but I could never shake the feeling that something from another time lingered in the ruins of the Eucla telegraph station. Something that wanted to remind the living of its haunting presence.
I have been having experiences with the paranormal since I was about 12 or 13. I'm 21 now. As a teenager, a few friends and I used to conduct seances and do things to scare ourselves. Many things happened to us in these times, and we eventually understood that we didn't know what we were doing. So we stopped playing around with things that we didn't understand. When I was about 16, we moved into a very old house where my uncle used to live. I still remember those 3 or 4 days after we had moved in. I was home alone, and I could hear a PowerPoint flicking in the next room next door. I knew it was a spirit, but I didn't feel threatened by it. But as the years passed, I noticed there was more than one spirit. One minute, I would feel completely relaxed. The next minute, I would get the creeps. This is how I came to the conclusion that there was more than one of these things lurking around. Many friends that have come to my house have commented on feeling like they were being watched. One actually said that they felt it was an old man, which is funny because I felt that too. I don't live inside the actual house, but in a bungalow out in the backyard. 2 or 3 years ago, I started to notice a presence creeping into my room like I was constantly being watched from one particular spot. And there would also be these cracking noises. I did feel like I wasn't wanted out there, and it did give me the creeps. About 18 months ago, I had this bizarre experience where I thought I was dreaming. A lady, with an angry look on her face, walked fast towards me and slapped me. I woke up, holding my face. I've always wondered whether I was in this semi-sleep state, and did this actually happen for real? Things have been going missing. My TV remote has never been found, even after I turned my room upside down looking for it. Water droplets have fallen on me from nowhere. A few years ago, I had real problems with sleepwalking. In the last year, things have been getting crazy. I get the feeling this spirit doesn't want me sleeping, because whenever I get into that stage where I'm about to drift into a deep sleep, I hear this loud thud or a crack or something falling over. I've also been waking up with bruises on my knuckles. I've been at breaking point in the last 2 weeks. It seems this thing has become very angry with me. I don't know why. I've been hearing footsteps circling my bed, strings being plucked on my guitar, the window blinds moving, and loud thuds against the wall. It has scared me so much that I've begun sleeping inside the house. And then I got worried that I had given it the upper hand, given it confidence. So the next night, I went back out and everything was fine. But the very next night, things started up again. As soon as I heard it was back, I sat up in my bed and said out loud, "Do you want to start, do ya?" The second I said that, a poster ripped off the wall and stuff flew out from under my bed. I slept inside again that night. 2 nights ago, I decided to smudge. The night I smudged, I removed surfboards and stuff from the corner. Then I felt like I was being watched, where the spirit stood. Everything was fine that night. Last night, after smudging, I was paid a visit yet again. It was early in the night. Only around 8:30 p.m. I went to bed. There was tapping on the windows, footsteps, like someone running. And it sounded like something was being thrown from wall to wall. Again, I went and slept inside. Things do happen inside. They just don't scare me as much, and I don't feel as if they're after me. Well, I did think that. Last night, when I was sleeping on my mum's bed, I woke up to the feeling that something was hovering above my face. Then, in an instant, it was gone. I also woke up twice being shaken. I've also experienced this in my room. I don't know what to do. I've asked them to leave. I've smudged, and I've laid out salt around my windows. What else? I feel like I'm helpless, and no one else can help me either. The thing that scares me as well is that I'm moving house in a few weeks. I'm scared that whatever this is is going to follow me, and I will be living alone.
It was a Friday night. My cousin and her brother were staying over at our house in Bathurst, New South Wales. My cousin was about 15 years old. We lived in a 2-story home, so my parents and her brother were downstairs in the den. My younger sister and I were in the living room, and my older cousin was in a spare bedroom getting ready to sleep. I was curled up on the couch, watching TV, when suddenly a loud scream split the air. I jumped up and ran to the spare room to see what happened. My cousin was sitting upright, her face pale. She said the bed had been shaking while she was on it. Thinking it was a joke, I told her to stop messing around and went back to the couch. 15 minutes later, another scream came, even louder and more frantic than before. I rushed back to the spare room yelling, "What's wrong now?" With wide eyes, she said the bed was shaking again. I was just about to walk away when the bed started moving crazily right in front of us. It shook back and forth like someone or something was gripping it. My cousin burst into tears and jumped off the bed, and the shaking stopped instantly. I checked under the bed, sure that her brother was pranking us, but there was nothing there. Was it a poltergeist? To this day, I don't know if we imagined it or if it was something real. Neither my cousin nor I have talked about it since. But a week later, another strange thing happened. It was a quiet Wednesday evening. I was alone in the house, reading a book. My family had gone out for dinner and I just wanted some quiet time. I was deep into a suspenseful chapter when I heard faint whispers from the hallway. I thought it was just the house settling or the wind outside, and brushed it off. But the whispers got louder and seemed to come closer. My heart pounded as I put my book down and listened harder. It wasn't my imagination. There were real, murmuring voices in the hallway. Summoning all my courage, I walked towards the sound. The whispers stopped the moment I stepped into the hallway. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and a chill ran through me. Nothing further happened that night, though. Over the next few days, weird things happened more often. Lights flickered for no reason, doors creaked open by themselves, and some rooms had cold spots. We tried to tell ourselves it was faulty wiring or drafts, but it happened so much that it became hard to ignore. One night, while brushing my teeth, I saw a shadowy figure in the bathroom mirror behind me. My blood ran cold and I quickly turned around, but the room was empty. I splashed water on my face, hoping I was just tired, but the image of that shadow stuck with me. My younger sister and I were too frightened to sleep alone, so we started sharing a room. Our nights were filled with uneasy sleep and whispers of, "Did you hear that?" during the dark, quiet hours. We didn't tell our parents, afraid they wouldn't believe us or would think we were just causing trouble. One night, the strange activities reached a peak. My family and I were in the living room trying to watch a movie. Halfway through, the lights flickered and the room became freezing. We huddled together, our breath visible in the cold air. Suddenly, the TV turned to static and whispers filled the room. The whispers got louder, almost deafening, and objects started moving by themselves. Books flew off shelves, picture frames broke, and an old clock chimed wildly. Panicking, we ran to the den for safety. The creepy activity followed us as if something unseen wanted us gone. In the chaos, we decided we couldn't stay there any longer. We packed our things and left the house that night, staying at a family friend's place. Leaving was hard, but necessary for our peace of mind. Weeks later, when we came back to get our belongings, the house felt different. The creepy presence seemed to have gone, leaving an eerie silence. We moved out soon after, leaving behind what was once our home, but had turned into a place of unexplained terror. Hello watchers and listeners, thank you so much for watching. If you have a story to share, please send it to my email in the description below. This channel is mostly made up of stories sent in by viewers or people they know. Another way to support the channel is to sign up for my Patreon, where you can watch my videos ad-free. More perks will be added in the new year. Also, I will be adding new designs to the merch store, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you all for your continuous support. And remember,
Papa loves you.